Today we're going to continue our unit with being able to write linear equations. 2.3, the title you're going to write is we're going to write equations and graphing given the slope, which is m, and the y-intercept b. Our objective, our goal that you're writing down is I will be able to write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form. What you're going to see today is you're going to be given graphs that have already been graphed, and you need to identify the m, the slope, and the b, and simply write the equation. That's it for today. So here's the first one we want to look at. Can we determine the equation of this line? This is what your goal is to be able to do by the end of the lesson today. So just to give you a little sneak peek, when we write the equation of a line, it's going to be in the form y equals mx plus b. We are writing everything in slope-intercept form for right now. All we need to really write this equation is the m and the b. Once we find the m and the b, we have our equation. The easiest one to find here is the b, the y-intercept. The point where this blue line cuts through the y-axis is right here, and its number on the y-line is 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's a positive 4. All I need now is my slope, my rise over run. So let's look. From one point to the next, I rise 1, 2, and I run 1. So my slope is rise 2, run 1. But notice I rose, which is positive, but I ran to the left, so my 1 is actually negative. So the equation would be written as y equals negative 2x plus 4. That shows we have a y-intercept at 4 and a downward slope, a negative slope of 2. That's what I want you to be able to do by the end of the lesson today. So here's the basic notes that we need to write. When we're writing the equation of a line, it's going to be in slope-intercept form. Remind yourself in your notes that slope-intercept form means y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is your y-intercept. All we're doing today is finding the slope and the y-intercept. Once we find those two, super easy to write the equation. The steps is number 1, we find the slope. We're going to find the slope by rising and running. And then we're going to find the y-intercept by simply looking at the point where it cuts through the y-line. Once we know our m and our b, we simply write the equation in the form y equals mx plus b. That is basically it for the notes. Now you're just going to copy down several examples. Here's the first one. If I give you the fact that the slope is 3 and the b, the y-intercept, is at 0, negative 5, which means we're using the number negative 5, would you be able to write the equation y equals, sub in your 3 for the slope, so y equals 3x, and then it's minus 5 because it's a negative 5. You could put plus negative 5, or you could just simply write minus 5. So we would come up with the equation y equals 3x minus 5. We're going to take that information and graph it now. I'm going to go on the y-line to 0, negative 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. From there, my slope says 3, which means rise 3, run 1. So from here, I'm going to rise 3, run 1. Rise 3, run 1. Whoops, rise 3, run 1. Once you have your points, get them correct here, now we're going to connect our points. Your line should look much straighter than mine as I'm drawing it on the board. So we were able to take the information that the slope was 3, the y-intercept was negative 5. We were able to write its equation and graph it. That's what we need to be able to do for today's lesson. Here's the next example you're going to write. A slope of negative 2 with a y-intercept at 8. So you're going to write y equals, attach your slope to the x, negative 2x, and it's a positive 8, so plus 8. So we need to be able to get our equation to say y equals negative 2x plus 8. Now if we go to graph, we're going to go on the y line to the y-intercept. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's right here on top. The slope says negative 2, which remember means negative 2 over 1. So I'm going to go down 2 to the right 1, down 2 to the right 1, down 2 to the right 1. The reason I'm going down is because it's negative 2, and the reason I'm going to the right is because the 1 is positive. Only the 2 was negative. Once you have that down, go ahead and move on to the next example. Sometimes we run into special circumstances, like here, where the slope is undefined and it has an x-intercept at negative 3, 0. Well, let's think about that going back to 2.1, 2 sections ago. What kind of lines have slopes that are undefined? These are special lines. Think about it. Un means not in your English class. What kind of line or slope would you not want to ski down? Hopefully you are visualizing in your head a vertical line. So that means I'm going to be drawing a vertical line, and it must go through the point negative 3, 0. I am not going to draw just a point. That means any point I pick to draw, its x value would be negative 3. So any one of these points, if I write their coordinates, their x coordinates are the same, 0, 3. So what all of these points have in common, like this is the point negative 3, 1, 2, 3. This is the point negative 3, 1. This is the point negative 3, 0. This is the point negative 3, negative 2. And our final one that I drew was negative 3, negative 4. All of these points have one thing in common. And the thing that it has in common is the x value is negative 3. So for vertical lines, they will always begin with x equals, and then you tell me what value they would all have in common. So the answer is x equals negative 3. That is only for undefined slopes, which are vertical lines. The other interesting one we have is when the slope is 0. This is different than vertical lines. 0 slopes we could ski, the ground would just be flat. That's called cross-country skiing. We want to make sure we go through the y-line, has a y-intercept at 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you remember, 0 slope means a horizontal line. So we would draw a horizontal line through the y-line at 5. If I were to pick just a few points and see what they have in common, this is the point negative 3, 5. This is the point 0, 5. And let's pick one more. This is the point 4, 5. What do all these points have in common? Their y values are the same. All the y values are 5. So when we have a 0 slope, that's a horizontal line, and its equation is y equals a number. Y equals 5 because the y line, the line we graph, goes through the y-axis at 5. So the equation is simply y equals 5. Those are the 4 basic situations you're going to see. I have 4 more just for you to practice to see how you're doing. Take a moment, look at this graph, identify its M and its B, and then write its equation. Well, if you remember from a graph, slope is the same as rise over run. So the question is, how much do we rise and run from one point to the next? We rise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And once we have risen our 6, we run 1, 2, 3. But we ran to the left, so that's negative. Rising up is positive. Left when you run is negative. Now that can be simplified. 6 divided by 3 is 2. Signs are different, so it's a negative 2. The B, the y-intercept. It goes through the y line at positive 4. So I take this m and this b and I write its equation. Y equals my negative 2, y equals mx plus, and then what's b? 4. So the equation of this line right here is y equals negative 2x plus 4. That should make sense because it's a negative slope and it matches a falling line. Here's our next example. Find the slope, the rising, and the running. Rise 1, 2, 3. Run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we were rising 3, and we ran 5. There's a slope of 3/5. I could even get a head start. Y equals 3/5 x. All I need now is my y-intercept. Where does it cut through the y-line? -1, -2, -3. So I'm just going to write -3, which means it ends in -3. So the equation that represents this line is y equals 3/5 x minus 3. Double check that makes sense. Positive slope, rising line. Yep, that matches. 2 more examples and then we'll be done for today. Ooh, here's one of those special lines. It's a horizontal line. Let's look and see if we can figure this out. The coordinates of these 2 points, -1, -2, -3, -4, that is at the point -4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. -4, +5. This point is at the point 1, 2, 3, 4, +5. What do those 2 points have in common? Both of their y values are 5. That's because this line is cutting through the y-axis at 5. That is the special equation y equals 5. It has a 0 slope because we are not rising anything, but we did run 10 between these 2 points. We didn't rise, but we ran 8. 4 and 4 is 8. I apologize for that. If you have 0 on top, that is okay. That is a 0 slope. Its y-intercept was at 0,5. So when we have a 0 slope, if we were to write it y equals 0 slope plus 5, well, anything times 0 is 0. So we actually end up with what we said, y equals 5. So we need to remember a horizontal line cuts through the y-line. So the equation is y equals, and then you say what number it cuts through the y-line at. Here's our last example for today's lesson. Hopefully you see that this is another one of the special situations. This is a vertical line, which means when we look at these 2 points, we are rising 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we are rising 8, but we are not running left or right to get to the next point. Having 0 on the bottom is a no-no. That is undefined. The y-intercept, this line is actually parallel to the y-line. It will never intersect, so there is no y-intercept. So the way we come to the equation is we look at what number it cuts through the x-axis on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It cuts through the x-axis at -5. If we were unsure how to go right to that answer, look at these 2 points. This is the point -5, 3, and this is the point -5, -5. They both have in common -5s as their x values. That's why it's x equals -5. So if you go back to our original goal in the beginning of the lesson, are you comfortable and able, are you comfortable and able to write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form? If I give you information and a graph, can you write the equation in y equals mx plus b? If you are good to go and able to do that, you're done with your notes for tonight. If you're not, take a moment, rewatch the parts of the video that are causing you some trouble, and write down any questions that you have for me and bring them to class tomorrow.